Hello, everybody. And yes, we are back for another game news roundup. Today, we were just talking about video game sales. And as I'm sure you saw in the title in front of me, as well as the title of the video, the Nintendo Switch has outsold the lifetime sales of the Nintendo DS in Japan. And is now the best-selling video game platform of all time in the country of Japan. That's right, Switch is numero uno. Who's next? No one. The Switch is number one. That's right. It is knocking on big records here of being, this is a big one here, being number one in Japan. It has a chance of being number one in the US. Pretty much impossible in Europe, but we'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, the Switch in May sold about 184,000 units in May 2024. To bring our lifetime estimates, sell-through estimates to 33.5 million units in Japan, comparing to 32.99 million units lifetime of the DS in Japan. So yeah, and then the figure does include the original Switch model, the Switch Lite, and the Switch OLED all combined. Of course, the DS also had multiple models released, and the Switch is far more expensive than the DS was. Here's and that, but just yeah. And I know some of you thinking, didn't the Switch surpass the DS months ago? Shipment-wise, yes. In one of the recent quarterly reports from Nintendo, shipment-wise for the Switch in Japan actually surpassed the shipment of the DS, but obviously that shipment of the DS means that it already sold through all of those units years and years, many years ago. While for the Switch, it generally will take a few months to sell through any quarterly, whatever the difference is between shipped and sold. However many are on the store shelves, how many are trying to get in transit and all that stuff, it takes a bit. But yeah, our latest estimates now has the Switch at number one in Japan, which is crazy, One thing I've been doing for a while now is these monthly sales comparisons. Actually, I've been doing these for years, but this one specifically is comparing the Switch and the DS. Remember, this is launch aligned. So this is month one for both. DS is down below this black line is the DS in the lead. Above it is the Switch in the lead. This is launch aligned. And as you can see, the DS had a really hot start where the Switch fell to nearly 9 million units behind the DS. This is specifically just Japan. And then Animal Crossing, COVID boost, and then just the Switch has been consistently selling. The only time you see these little dips, I believe, is the holidays for the DS potentially were a little bit bigger than the Switch. But overall, every month, other than a few months here and there, starting in about it's like 38 or so over here, the Switch was closing the gap. And then obviously DS sales started to fall off. Switch has still been selling pretty dang well. And in month 87 overall, the Switch has outsold the DS. And also, just about the same time, the Game Boy as well, because the Game Boy sold just under the DS. Though the Game Boy does include the Game Boy Color. So yeah, this here is just launch line sales, complete lifetime sales. This blue line, this lighter blue line is the DS, which you see after about 73 months, that was pretty much it. It only sold a little bit more after that, and it just pretty much flatlined. Well, the Switch fell behind, but has been consistently selling. So where is it going to end up? 35, 36 plus million by the time it's done? Who knows? I do expect Switch sales to really slow down next year in Japan and worldwide, just because most likely the successor to the Switch, the Super Switch, the Switch 2, whatever Nintendo ends up calling it, is likely going to be launching maybe March or April of next year. We'll see. Maybe they'll wait till the holiday of next year. We will know soonish. The full unveiling of the successor to the Switch will be sometime before April of next year. So in the current Nintendo fiscal year, we'll know for sure, which the fiscal year for Nintendo runs April to March. So by the end of March of next year, we'll know what the Switch successor is, and probably release date and price and all that stuff. But yeah, so yeah, this is it. This is one country down, or region. I mean, it's a country, but there's also the region. So yeah, here we've got the best-selling platforms all time. We got it listed by Japan. Switch number 1, 33.05 million. DS number 2, 32.99 million. And then the Game Boy, 32.47 million. And then the 3DS. You can see who dominates Japan, quite especially late. The 3DS at 24.67 million. And then the PS2, which is currently the best-selling video game console of all time, sold 23.18 million. So yeah, the Switch has sold almost 10 million more units than the PS2 in just Japan, but obviously it is currently behind in other parts of the world, especially Europe. Europe is the big difference there. And then the PS1, 21 million, the PSP, 20 million. Those are all the consoles that have sold 20 million or more. And the NES at 19.3 million, the SNES at 17 million, GBA just under 17 million, etc., etc. You get down, and then the PS3, which is sold just about 10.5 million, PS4, 9.6 million. Yeah, even though you think the PS3 kind of a failure and the PS4 a huge success, in Japan, the PS3 sold more. And then we'll see where the PS5 is going to end up. It is currently tracking just ahead of the PS4 and PS3. Just a little bit. But, so yeah, continuing on the conversation with the Switch, North America. This is North America. We've got the Switch at 49.63 million units sold in North America, which is number 3 of all time, with it about 4 million behind the PS2 in North America, which is about 53.6 million, and then the Nintendo DS at 57.9 million units sold in North America. Which, you know, you do the math there, you're talking 8.3 million behind in North America, if my math is correct. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there, but will the Switch outsell the DS in North America? Possibly. Sales are slowing down, so we'll see what it has left in it to get to that mark, but I'd say there's a good chance. If it does become number 1 in North America, a much higher chance of becoming number 1 worldwide, even if it's nowhere going to be coming close to number 1 in Europe, because in Europe, it is the 5th best-selling video game platform of all time, where you're like, oh yeah, Japan, it's number 1. North America, it's number 3. And, yeah. In Europe, it is 5th, with just under 36 million units sold, and then it's got another just over 4 million before it tops the Game Boy, and then another just under 10 million before it gets to the PS4, and then another about 16-ish million, 15, 16 million to get to the DS, and then nearly 20 million behind the PS2. And obviously, with its latest lifetime, I can see it potentially getting past the Game Boy by the time it stops selling, but I don't think it's going to sell another 10 million to catch up to the PS4. In Europe. In Europe, generally speaking, PlayStation has generally been much stronger than Nintendo or Xbox. Except in the UK. Mainland Europe, it's generally PlayStation has dominated for most of Europe. I think France is one of like the few exceptions where at least the Switch has sold really well in France. But other parts of mainland Europe is generally dominated by PlayStation. And then, quick look at worldwide. Switch, number 3, been number 3 for a long time, with, you know, Game Boy being number 4, 118 million, and the Switch now being over 140 million. We're talking about 14 million before it gets up to Nintendo DS, and then PS2, as I mentioned plenty of times, if you watch my videos or you follow on VGChartz here or other places, we don't know the exact number for the PS2. On Sony's website, it says 155 million plus, sold as of, I forget, it's March 2012. And then, of course, it wasn't discontinued until January 2013. And then for a while, Sony combined PS2 and PS3 hardware sales. And then when the PS3 had announced 80 million sold, they eventually said that. And okay, you kind of figure out rough estimates. And it was basically 158.7 million bottom for the PS2, up to like 161 or so million. It was the range for the PS2. It'd be nice to get an actual definite. I'm just hoping the Switch either doesn't get up to that point or easily goes to 160, 263, 164, maybe 170 million before the time Nintendo stops selling it. So we know definitively what is the best-selling video game platform of all time. It comes down to many factors of how long is Nintendo going to support it after the Switch successor comes out. That is the big question mark. If they keep supporting it for another 2 or 3 years, even if the sales quickly decline, they should be able to get another decent amount of units shipped over, 2 or 3 years after that. So, yeah, that is pretty much what I wanted to discuss here. If you enjoy this, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to subscribe. What are your thoughts on Nintendo Switch now becoming the best-selling video game platform of all time? And also, do you think Do you think the Switch will outsell the PS2 worldwide to become the best-selling video game platform of all time? Of all time. Dedicated video game platform. Because obviously, technically, you know, you can game on PC, you look at your phones and stuff, but dedicated devices designed specifically for gaming. Do you think that Switch will become #1? Let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time for some more gaming news, gaming sales, any of the latest gaming information. Obviously, check out VGChartz if you want to keep an eye on the latest video game sales, and obviously gaming news and whatnot, which are updated almost daily. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.